Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from Sort of Interesting, and today you're joining me for a chat about what I want from boat life when I'm heading out looking at boats, and I think we'll even do a little bit of drawing of what my sort of ideal boat layout would be after my previous 4 years experience of living on board a very small 30-foot narrowboat, and how I want the experience to be different as I move forward with my boat life, looking for obviously a bigger boat than that for the long-term future. Now, firstly, I'm going to do a little introduction here of a quick minute to sum up what's happening in life so that you can watch the next minute and then ignore everything else that goes on in the video. Right, let's dive straight in. Firstly, I've got an official end date of when I'm out of the flat, which I'm not sure if I mentioned that last week, but basically I've got until the start of May, so that's happening. You may notice that this video is really echoey, and that's basically because this room I'm filming in is getting emptier and emptier, and as that gets emptier, the more the room echoes because, well, I'm getting rid of all my stuff basically because I don't need it on a boat. I got as far as making an offer on a boat and having a counter offer which I decided to decline. I'm not going to say which boat in particular because I think this is an important thing to remember here. When everybody out there on the internet wants me to have like this over-the-shoulder view of what I'm doing and looking at boats and making offers and stuff like that, when the reality is that these are offers on boats that real people are trying to sell for real money. So I don't want to let the cat out of the bag of the sort of offers they're looking at and accepting by accidentally giving the game away. But we'll say that I made an offer and received a counter offer that was well within my budget of 35 grand for a boat. And even though it was well within budget, for me personally, I felt that there was still a lot more money that would be spent on the boat to bring it up to what I wanted the boat to be. So I decided to leave it. I made my offer and that was the limit really. So I offered more than I should have really as an opening offer, I think. And perhaps that's what sort of did me in the end. But ultimately, I could have got a really good value boat, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't the right boat for me personally in what I'm looking for the future. But for other people, it would be a great boat and great value. So again, I'm sad to say that I have not got a boat still. Again, I was hoping, I made an offer that this would be my first surprise video from a boat. But ultimately, what I've realised and finally come to accept is that whereas I'm all excited and want to get out on the canal, I missed the first boat and that sold without me making an offer. It's very important, as I said previously in another video, to not just panic buy the next boat that's available. I've got to look at this sensibly. It's a huge amount of money to be spending on anything. It's a huge change in my lifestyle to go back to living on a boat again. And as I say, all the rest of my life is starting to get ready to make that move to the canals. But it's just a case of getting that boat. And my new simple saying and phrase to remind myself is, it's better to get back to the canals sensibly rather than quickly. And that's what I've got to keep at the key to everything from now on. So hopefully in the next month I'll have a boat, but who knows, at the minute there's a few that I want to go and visit in different places, but ultimately it's still an ongoing thing. So anyway, that's been more than 1 minute, I apologise. Let's get to the main video now and talk about what I actually want from boat life as I go back to the canals and what sort of thing I'm looking for from a boat specifically. So, as many of you may know, I lived for 4 years on a tiny little boat called Tilly. Only 30 foot long, 15 foot outdoor space and 15 foot indoor space. So I know roughly what to expect from life on the canals. This time I would like to have a permanent marina mooring, although I'd probably split my time 50-50 between going into a marina at various times of the year, like the busy summer months on the Llangollen Canal, the cold months and the wet autumn months where I wouldn't want to be trudging up and down the towpath, and basically just enjoying tootling around on a boat for a month and running back to the marina for a month or two, tootling out again for another couple of months maybe. And really, I suppose it's all about security of having that place to go back to where if there's any problems or anything I need to do, I've got a sensible, easy to access headquarters that I can keep my boat, I can get work done on the boat, I can arrange to meet people to do work on the boat, rather than being out and about and potentially having all sorts of problems like I once upon a time did with Narrowboat Tilly off down the middle of nowhere on the canal. Again, absolutely love the canal, and I really want to get out and revisit many of the places that I really, as many of you know, thoroughly enjoyed spending my time at. So ultimately, I know the general gist of boat life of, right, oh, you've got limited space, you've got this, you've got that. But personally, if you'd have seen when I moved from Narrowboat Tilly to where I live now, if you'd have seen how little I had to fetch here, it was unreal, honestly. I just lived in a big empty, I mean, it's a beautiful place where I live, don't get me wrong. But honestly, even after almost 2 years here, I've still struggled to fill it. I had literally one room dedicated to being a model railway room where I was building a big model railway layout until recently. And I just had all of my other stuff in my living room, which again is a much bigger room than most people would have in their house, admittedly, because it's a strange layout. But I literally turned it into a bedsit and still had room for a soundproof studio and all sorts here. So things like the space and the room and the cramped conditions that you can have on a narrowboat, that's not a concern for me. So I've lived on a much smaller boat and a very simple basic boat as well. They didn't have magical central heating or any sort of anything particularly modern or technical on it. So the general gist of boat life, I'm more than happy with. I would actively say that I really like it, and that's what draws me back to boat life from the land. Obviously, I'm looking for a bigger boat, so I'm thinking something in the region of 45 foot, because not only is that going to give me a lot more indoor space, like a proper separate bedroom, a bathroom, with obviously like a decent sort of proper electric pump out shower and stuff. Toilet, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't really matter to me whether it's a pump out toilet or a camping toilet or whatever. As long as it's got something, that's all that's important. That I think it's having a much better shower, because on my old narrowboat, it was just a very basic wet room shower layout. So that obviously was difficult to dry out in the winter and all sorts of stuff. Many fun adventures to be told about those days. So basically, as long as it's got a proper separate bedroom, nice sensible laid out bathroom and shower, a kitchen that's got obviously a decent cooker and gas hobs, grill and that sort of stuff. Obviously you want your kitchen sink and stuff, and a sensible fridge and freezer. I think those are the key things. Obviously, the basis to begin with. I'm not too bothered really if I go on and it's got a washing machine on it already or not. That's neither here nor there. Because obviously, if you haven't got a cooker, then you can't cook anything. If you haven't got a fridge, which I decided controversially to get rid of the fridge on my old boat, you obviously can't keep certain things for long on your boat if you don't have a fridge or a freezer. So I think getting the food element and the washing element sorted that's the key. And then I'll worry about getting some sort of small washing machine, maybe to go on a little box on the stern or something. Depending on if the stern's got a cover on it. Again, there's some boats I've looked that are absolutely immaculate, and I think I could move straight onto that. But do I want to? I don't know about this. So perhaps I'll get one and it's got a brand new kitchen and it's all sorted, so you're totally all self-contained from the word go. But I'm more than prepared to add in a cooker and do this and that and add a washing machine. And basically, like I say, it's all about actually having the more important things there when I move on, to be able to move into it to start with. Even I can't eat a takeaway pizza every night, although I will try if I must. So basically, as I say, we've got bedroom, bathroom, kitchen with sensible stuff in it, not a totally bare bones kitchen, and then a living area, which in my personal view, I would like a living area and kitchen to be relatively open plan, so it sort of makes it feel bigger than it actually is, if you understand what I mean. It's like there's some things where the kitchen will have maybe a wall or a pole or a post or a little high, sort of slightly higher raised partition, but not an actual wall. And I feel that makes it feel like two separate compartments of, this is where you relax, this is where you cook. And I like it, like on my old boat, it was basically just a separate shower and toilet room, and then all one open plan, weird living space, kitchen, office area. As I say, it was only a very small boat. And I really did actually like that layout of, well, this is your living room and your kitchen, and it doesn't really, it's all one thing, so it doesn't really matter whether you're here, there, or again, the kitchen was sort of sandwiched between where I sat at my little writing desk and where I went to sleep on my sofa bed. Crazy times, many stories, as I say. But ultimately, that's all I'm looking for. I'm not particularly interested in having anything fancy or any fancy furniture. And for me personally, unless the boat is laid out in a really perfect way for how I would personally like it, I would rather have absolutely no furniture at all in the living area and provide my own, rather than it be how you see sort of built-in like chairs along the sides that can come out into maybe a double bed or a sofa bed or something like that. I would rather have absolutely nothing and pay the price of putting my own new furniture in than have built-in furniture that I'm not free to move around and shift about. The only thing that I personally would really like on a boat as I go in, on top of obviously the bathroom and the kitchen area, the only part that I'd really like to be there ready installed in the living area is the fireplace and an actual wood burning stove. Just something so that you've got your heat, you can heat, eat and sleep basically. And then as long as you've got something relatively sensible in there, I don't mind if it needs a lick of paint on the inside and needs doing up or needs a bit of tidying up. I'm absolutely fine with sorting all that out. I'm in this for the long run, so ultimately I'm more than happy to put my money where my mouth is and actually get stuck in and do the work, buy the furniture, replace bits of the kitchen if needs be, and do any work that might be needing on the outside or on the electrical and gas systems on the boat. Again, there's an awful lot to think about with boats because you've obviously got the interior, which you want to be a sensible living area if you're intending to make this your long-term home, but also you've got to think about the engine, you've got to think about the condition of that and what that may, what value that may add or detract from the boat. Then of course you've got the way the space is used. So if you've got a big outdoor space on the stern, as my old boat did, even though the boat was only 30 foot, 10 foot of that, a third of the space, was literally outdoor space on the stern, which, as you can imagine, over time, I felt more and more like, man, I would love to have another 5 foot of that outdoor space on the inside. But ultimately, well, it did me well for 4 years. Good old Tilly. Absolutely loved my absolutely crazy lifestyle on that. So that's the general idea of the interior of the boat. As I say, you've got to take things into consideration like the engine and what systems it's got in terms of the electrics and do they need looking at and all of that sort of stuff. Then you've obviously got the big, very important thing of the actual steel hull of the boat. So what conditions that in, how old is the boat, how degraded is the steel likely to be over just the age of the boat, is there any replating work being done to the boat below the waterline, when was that done? And again, this is where you start to get into all sorts of difficulties of, I mean, I would always tell people, have a survey, have a whole survey done to see how thick the metal is underneath and see how dire it may be, or if it's potentially going to be springing a leak and you'll wake up in the morning with a water feature squirting out of the middle of the floor. But personally, the boat that I was making an offer on, the two boats, the one boat that I missed out on and the second boat that I made an offer on, I was umming and ahhing about the second boat because it was over 20 years old. But the first boat, I think I would have taken relatively happily without having a whole survey done on it because it was a younger boat to begin with. And how I'm viewing this, the reason that I was umming and ahhing about having a survey done on the second boat, even though it was an older boat, was because I'm looking at buying these boats, and as I'm budgeting for them over the next few years, I'm envisioning, right, I'll pay this much for the boat. Obviously, I'm putting 35 grand out there as my top end. Who knows what my top end truly may be or may not be, but 35 grand, if I could get a sensible, good condition 45-foot boat, I'd be more than happy to spend that. Obviously though, I want to spend as little as possible. And so whereas I was looking at offers well under 30,000, 20,000, flipping heck, I would have taken it there. But whereas I was well under budget, I was basically thinking, do I want to get a survey on this, or do I just want to take the boat, not have the survey, and save me like a few £100, and then look at it as, well, next year I'm going to have it out of the water for hull blacking and a look anyway, so I'll have a survey done at that point, and then if the worst news comes back and it needs new steel that could cost thousands upon thousands, it could be a very expensive job to overplate a hull, believe me. But basically, I'm budgeting that in. If I'm looking at a boat that's over 20 years old, I'm already considering and keeping it in my mind when I'm making offers on that boat as the upfront price of getting control of that boat. I'm already thinking, imagine if it's over 20 years old, sooner or later in the next few years, you may well be very likely to be putting a lot of money down on putting new steel on that boat. And of course then, that takes, if you spend £30,000 on a boat and then another £6,000 in a year's time because it needs steel here, it's got a leak coming there, that needs replacing. That's how I'm looking at it, basically. Right then, my friends, sorry to interrupt myself in the middle of this video, but I've got to the end of this video and it's now exceeded 20 minutes, so I realise I am not going to actually get to do my drawings and stuff like that. So I'm going to say, let's take a break now and have a word from our sponsor. What's that? Who's our sponsor this week? Well, I'm our sponsor. And when I say our, I'm talking about only me, and there's not even anyone over there. Boats, 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 boats. I'm talking about boats. Hang on a minute, what on earth is this? Well, can you believe that? Just lying in the forest here, we have got a copy of My Narrowboat Life from beginning to end by me, Daniel Mark Brown. Oh yes, it's one of these plugs, I'm afraid, my friends. So, if you're unaware, which would be a surprise by now, this is available from Amazon on my Amazon author page, a link in the description below, or if you visit narrowboatbooks.com, that'll take you straight there to my author page where you'll find the paperback here, which is actually a serious amount of writing. This is basically made up of some of my shorter Kindle books about my life on Narrowboat Tilly, and really, I've got to say, when this arrived and I realised how thick it was and flicked through the pages, it was like, I always talk about how much writing I do, but this is just the stuff that made it into a paperback. Anyway, please do check this out. It really does help me out, especially now, as I say, looking in the run-up to buying a boat. Also, I would say there's two lesser known Dan Brown books that are available for the Kindle. One of them's called Oh No, Not Another Narrowboat Guidebook, which is, again, my attempt at a little sort of tongue-in-cheek, light-hearted guidebook and sharing a few thoughts on boat life, which originally I released under a pseudonym as I just wanted to release something that didn't have the Dan Brown name anywhere near it. And also I wrote a short fiction book called The Shropshire Canal Cat, which, again, only a nice short little book. And it's all about one cat's adventure as he finds himself falling asleep on a boat and getting taken miles down the Llangollen Canal, and then having to cut across the fields and canals and get on boats and all sorts of stuff to get back home to Chirkbank. And that's a book that I've tried to base in as realistic a Shropshire as I possibly can, so everywhere is based on all my knowledge of the local area. Anyway, please do check out these books. As I say, narrowboatbooks.com will take you straight to my Amazon page, and there's links in the description, or just search for the book title. Right, have a fantastic day. God, it's almost as if I fetched this down here myself and placed it there only moments ago. What a coincidence. I'm so sorry. So even though I'm talking about these figures now of what I'm willing to spend on a boat and how much do I want to spend on this, how much do I want to spend on that, the reality is that I'm looking at this as an overall thing. So if, for example, in 3 years' time, say if tomorrow I went and bought a boat and paid for it and tootled off and had the keys and it was all good, then I'd take that price and be like, that's the starting price, that's the entry fee. It's all the other stuff that comes over the next few years that's going to bring it to the total cost of that boat. So ultimately, in the next few years, I could end up spending well in excess of 40, 45, up to like 50 grand on a boat with the initial purchase, and then of course the extra work being done here and this all new steel, that. But ultimately, I would hope that after doing that work and after spending all of that money, I would come to a final figure of, right, this is how much it's cost me to get the boat to where I want it to be in terms of its interior and its exterior. And now that money's spent, everything's pretty much just a case of hoping nothing terrible goes wrong and keeping the maintenance up. And this is now my home that I've spent, say, 50 grand on, and that's it. I now own this home, and I haven't got to worry, hopefully, about any big expenses in the near future. And for the next 10 years, I can tootle about happy and live my canal lifestyle again. So there's a lot to think about, as I say. And I would always advise other people to get a survey done on a boat before buying it. And I've been looking at some of the really mega boats out there, like brand new 60-footers, like that are only a couple of years old. And you look at them and you're seeing like 80 grand and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, that's a beautiful boat, don't get me wrong. 80 grand, 85 grand. I mean, there's some over 100 grand out there. And they are incredible creations, don't get me wrong. But I look at that and I think, even if I had that sort of money to spend on a boat, I don't know if I could ever go through with it. It's absolutely killing me just putting in these offers and stuff that I did this week just gone. Right then, my friends, I realise now that this video has gone way, way, way beyond where I expected it to go in terms of length. So I'm just going to say I'm going to wrap things up now. Maybe by next weekend I will be filming this as a surprise on a boat, hopefully. But again, I don't know, I don't think I'll be able to get somewhere, put an offer in and get a boat by next weekend. But there's a few that I'm going to go and have a look at, hopefully very soon, as in imminently. I mean, it's midnight or coming, it's very late at this moment, so obviously I'm not going out right now. But very soon I will be looking at some more boats that are looking quite nice from what I can see on the internet. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Please do check out my other videos for loads more of this sort of boaty stuff. And I've got over 400 videos from my boat life on my previous narrowboat. So please do check out my other videos. Check out sortofinteresting.com. I am posting articles and little little selections of photos and things over there, which you may or may not enjoy. So please do check out the website. I'm trying to make that into an actual interesting place. It's called sortofinteresting.com after all. And of course, my friends, please do, as I've mentioned earlier in the forest here, please consider checking out my short books available for the Kindle. Find links to those in the description below. And also links to me on Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram and Tumblr and Pinterest and I don't know what else. But check the links in the description below if you want to see my books or anything else than the pictures that I post on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. Just have an absolutely fantastic day. Thank you so much, everybody, for all the messages over the last couple of weeks. It's really good to be coming back to the canals and I can't wait. And I hope that you'll enjoy, even if I don't post as much as I used to about my boat life, hope you'll enjoy what I do post and that it'll be better quality than a lot of my old stuff. Till the next time though, my friends, have an absolutely fantastic day. Keep it boat worthy. And of course, my friends, farewell. And keep it interesting. See ya.